Einar Helde is the co-founder of AIMS API. I can say that this is one of my favorite episodes. It's super interesting how he approaches building a business in the music industry. I hope you like it. I definitely did. Einar, welcome to Sound Connections. I'm very happy to have you here. You have a very nice background. Where are you?
Hi, Jakob. Thank you for having me. Right now, I'm in Los Angeles. I've been here for a couple of months with my family, and it's lovely to wake up to this view every morning.
Okay, so as a Norwegian guy who normally lives in Copenhagen, spending a couple of months in LA, that must be a story. So I think we'll spend some time figure out why you're in LA and why you've been there for a couple of months. But Einar, how did you start out in the music industry? What was sort of your background?
So I ended up in the music industry by chance. As you mentioned, I'm Norwegian and moved to Copenhagen back in 2006 to study commercial law and business at the Copenhagen Business School. And already after like 3 or 4 months, I was running low on funds, so I needed a part-time job like you do. And there was a company looking for a Norwegian part-time salesperson of music for film and TV. And little did I know that I would still be in that industry, what will it be, 17 years later.
Okay, so you didn't come from like a music background as a musician or something like that?
No, I've never been playing any instruments or anything. I've always loved music and listened a lot to it, but it was just random that I ended up in the music industry.
That's really cool because most of the entrepreneurs I speak to, come from the music industry, and it comes really from being failed musicians to a big degree and then going into the music industry. So I'm very intrigued about how that is different from your journey, how it is. So right now, just to skip some few steps ahead and then go back, right now you are talking with me because you've co-founded a company called AIMS API. And it's a really interesting company. I got to try a demo, I think a month or two ago, where basically use your demo. I was like, whoa, okay, this is really interesting. This is going to change some stuff. Because personally, I'm a very practical person. I love technology, but I'm also super skeptical to, buzzwords. And this is for me I've tried a few AI tools that, is in music industry that's really cool, but this is definitely top of them, I would say. Could you just explain, before we go through your history again, what is AIMS API?
Yeah, so thank you for that. That's actually the big phrase there is that it's no BS and hype. So AIMS API is, AIMS actually means Artificial Intelligence Music Search, which we thought was a great name. But then we found out it might not be the best in the world. But what we do is we make music searchable and discoverable by using machine learning and audio technology. So basically we analyze audio and recommend things that have a same feel or vibe as that audio. And we build different products based on that. And we are notoriously bad at marketing because we try to avoid BS and we really want to not try to make things shinier than they are. It's super advanced technology, but we want to look at the practical application. How does this bring value to music companies? And that's how we build the whole company. Like, we solve valuable problems, and then we might solve more and more valuable problems. But initially, I can say we are a bootstrap company as well. So we have no funding.
Oh, really?
Outside. So everything comes from just getting the clients on board and organically growing. And I think now we're about 26 people in the company. So it's worked reasonably well. And we want to solve more problems, but we're quite happy where we are at the moment.
Wow, that's a unique story. Like being in AI technology, being bootstrapped, having clients. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. So let's go a bit back because somehow you ended up here. So you went to Copenhagen, you had this student job, and you work within what was it, placement of music? Was that at Apollo? Like I can see on LinkedIn that you work there. Is that the company you started at?
Yeah, I started in production music, and I kind of didn't know what production music was. I didn't even know that there was companies delivering music just for film and TV. So that was a realization back then. And I just needed to push music to Norwegian production companies and did that quite successfully. And started to learn what the production music world, or library music as some people call it, is, and grew it from there.
And there was obviously some sort of traction in that, and you had a career that developed. Could you go through a bit what happened in your career after that?
Yeah, so I worked in this company for more than 10 years. I grew it into covering several countries and started to build a big international network, because what you realize is that the music industry is not that big. As soon as you start going to conferences and you meet people, you probably know somebody who knows somebody already in your second round of conferences. So I met at one of these conferences the co-founder of Ames and another company that we started back in 2018, Martin Nedved, who is the CEO of Ames now. And that's kind of where my journey started into more advanced thing than just sync for film and TV. And that's what ultimately led me to Ames.
So how did that play out? Because you describe yourself as a business developer. So there must have been somewhere in this Apollo journey where you took care of the development of the business. So how did that go about?
Yeah, I did different kinds of things. Something as concrete as sales, contacting people, talking to people, and going to conferences, and then negotiating deals, making those kind of things happen, and then expanding the business to multiple territories. And from there, learning how to do business development, coming up with new products, or finding out what the clients wanted. And I think that's where my talent lies, is in identifying the problems and finding potential solutions for it.
That makes sense. So were there so evident problems in your world that you figured out, okay, I need to go and start something myself? What was the sort of the leap there?
Back in 2018, me and my partner in APL Publishing, Daniel Kiefer, we started our own production music company out of Copenhagen, but doing mainly business in Germany. And at the same time, Martin called me and said, I have an idea for a product that is called neighboring rights collections, which was a buzzword back then. And it worked very well in his home territory in Czech Republic. And he said, can you help me bring this to a global scale? And I was like, okay, I barely know what neighboring rights are, but let me figure it out. And then we started another company together first, which is called Neighboring Rights Agency, NRG. And that company, we found a niche in production music where nobody was collecting the rights for artists and performers of film and TV music specifically. So that money was just left around in the different societies. And I just went around to the societies, found out how to register, how to claim, and we tried to turn that into a process. And then since we knew the production music industry quite well, we contacted our partners and friends there and said, can you recommend us to your performers or composers or writers that let us find them money? And within the first year, we found significant amounts of money. And now, 5 years later, it's a 6-man company. I'm not running it. I'm just a part owner and on the board now. But we identified that nobody was collecting this and artists were not finding money. And when we then found money for them, we became quite popular. So it was a good way for us to become well-known in our little industry and for good things, like just bringing people money. So that was the first move from sync to more like advanced royalty collection.
That makes sense. And but Ames sort of started around the same time, or like the year after, or what was the journey there?
Yeah, so while I was going around Europe mainly and finding out how to collect neighboring rights, Martin was talking to our third co-founder, Victor, who is the brains behind the technology, about solving search for them internally in Martin's production music company. And that came about because the technology that the industry was using at that time was acquired by Spotify. So they were pulling a similar product from the market and putting the brains there into Spotify. So there was a hole in the market for search technology, and there was nothing good enough out there. So Martin found Victor to try to solve it as an internal project. And when it was good enough, they were working on the research while I was doing energy. They came to me and said, we think we have something. Maybe we should start another company and turn it in from an internal project to an actual own company that has a product in the AI space. So that's kind of how AIM started, is that we came up with a product. Martin and Victor built the initial POC, and then they looped me in to commercialize it.
That's cool. Wow. Try to explain a bit, because you said Ames is a bootstrap company. Could you just go through the business journey there? Like you have this product, you develop in some sort of a MVP or like a very early version, and you start selling it. How did you get some revenue and some clients from developing that technology?
It kind of all connects back to the fact that we have been in the production music industry for a very long time. Already at that point, more than 10 years. So we knew all the right people, and we knew intimately what problems production music companies of all sizes have. It's kind of finding the right music and giving it to the clients as fast as possible, or show it to them on your online search engine. And using the technology back then, like keywords or internal know-how and album descriptions, etc., means that you're not searching efficiently and you're not showing the best music. So a lot of music is drowning. And since this started as an internal project in Martin's production music company, Studio Fontana, it was kind of funded, the research, by them. So it's like, let's try to solve this as an internal thing. And then as soon as it started working, we had a very short way to the market, because we knew that people were missing the technology because Spotify had removed a product from the market. So we knew how to get in front of the people who used to use that technology. So we just went directly to our friends and big sub-publishers around Europe and said, you're now missing this technology. We have something that is almost as good as what was acquired. Do you want to try it? And that's like an unfair advantage. We know the people, we can get technology in front of them, and they are willing to try it, and they needed this at that time. So they were like, let's try it. It's not as good as the one that was acquired, but it's not far off. So it's good enough. And good enough is kind of a keyword in AI. It's like, is it good enough to save us time and be valuable? Then let's bring it to market. And I think that's when we decided this is worth a company, when we already had, like, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 clients who had already said, yes, we will pay for this, even before you launched as Ames API. But then we also just worked with limited resources. We had 3 founders. They found a great CTO, who is still our CTO. And I hired like 2 salespeople. And then we slowly started expanding just in our little world of production music still. So we knew that we can get clients, and we got them, and got to overcome a lot of different things. But we kind of got into revenue already from the get-go and grew slowly from there.
That's interesting. Was it a deliberate choice that you guys didn't want to get in any outside capital, choosing the bootstrap method?
Yeah and no. Like, it was deliberate in the way that all our other companies are also bootstrapped. So we're not used to VC funding. And we didn't know the scalability of the product at the time. We knew that we had something really cool. We knew that it was good enough for certain clients, but it was good enough for a client group that we know really well. So we didn't know how to expand it outside that. So we kind of didn't know what to spend the money on if we got it. Our research was built by one guy who was super strong. And at that time, he preferred to work alone or with one other person. So we wouldn't scale that part. And we couldn't scale sales because basically me, Martin, and two guys were trying to sell it. And as founders, you need to be able to sell your product before hiring others to do it. So we needed to find out how to do it first. So I think we have a very pragmatic approach to it. And our CTO, he did dev and operations and everything. So we were like super lean in the beginning. And that allowed us to go in the direction we wanted. And we had no idea that AI 5 years later would be what everyone talked about.
That makes sense, because one of my questions is, you started in 2019 and probably before that with the research. Like, that is way ahead of this current wave we are in right now. What was the reasoning behind the technology? Had it been AI from the very start?
Yeah, I think it came from, again, the French company that was bought by Spotify. They had done that even before us. So they were back in, I don't know if they started in 15 or 16 or maybe even before that. And so we called it machine learning more than AI. And we tried to kind of build models that made sense to improve the state at that time. And now it's more complex, and there's more AI companies out there, and every day somebody else is starting a new AI company. But I think the advantage for us is we knew where we wanted to go and how, and that it could be done. So we had already seen a product that could do it using machine learning. So we knew that it was possible to get there. And then we just needed to find the way to get there. And it sounds like I know a lot about machine learning. I don't. This is just, it's easier to create something good if you know it's possible to make it, rather than just dream of it.
Makes sense. Quite an interesting story. I have a question, because you guys call it AIMS API. Could you explain that last API? What do you guys mean by that?
So we are an API first company. That means that we do not intend to be a platform to compete with other platforms. We want to integrate our technology onto all other music products. So we wanted to make that clear for a lot of the partners that we have, that we're an API first company, so we're not going to threaten you by becoming the search for everyone, because there's a lot of platforms out there working in the music space. And it's an industry that requires a different structure. If you want to be a platform, you need to have like service, customer support, and you have to have a price list and sign-ups with credit cards, etc. There are bigger expectations. If you're an API company doing B2B like we do, you don't need a big backroom staff to do that. We need to have a well-functioning API, and we need to service a few other businesses and create something stable for them. But it requires less of the, the things that other startups spend their money on. It requires less marketing and less customer support. And that means that we can spend our money on research, sales, and product instead of those very resource-consuming parts of the business.
That's interesting. For the listeners who still don't know too much about this product yet, could you, for the sake of understanding, go through a user journey of a customer? What happens when they use your API?
Okay, so basically using the API, you're just putting our technology or parts of it onto your website or your search bar. And the initial thing that we did was enabling any search bar to accept links instead of keywords. So you can input an audio link from YouTube or similar, and then we analyze that and we find music in your catalog that has the same feel. Yeah. So the magic sauce is in the same feel. A lot of technologies can do searches based on audio, but Victor has built something that actually find really good results. And that's what we say when people ask us, how does it work? I say, it works really well. It works great. But we can explain to you what that feel is. You can break it down. It's not based on keywords or tags or anything. It's much more complex than that. And it basically uses the audio and an algorithm to find what is the feel of this song. And that means, what should I say? That means like genre means something, but it's not more important than tempo or instrumentation or vocals. Like all of it combined creates a feel.
Okay.
That's the hard thing to explain to a client. So we say, just try it. So you can go to our website, you can try prompt search, which is our newest feature, type in whatever you want, and Aims will find you something that has that feeling or makes sense of what you're writing. So that was the first product. We knew that in the production music world, if an ad agency or a film company says, I want music that sounds like one of these two songs or in the style of this artist, you as a music supervisor would have to describe it in your words. So let's say you send me a Beatles track. I would have to describe it by saying like rock, 60s, upbeat, bass, drums, guitar, British, and you hope that the keywords were there in the search. You hope that somebody has tagged all these things. Often they don't. And also, if you want to describe two different tracks, so you want to describe one from Sgt. Pepper and then one from Penny Lane, you use the same kind of keywords. So how can you be accurate? How can you get the nuance down to find what you're actually looking for? So we often find that there's so many biases that the search ends up being not very accurate, and you spend a lot of time searching for and listening to music that is very difficult to find. So when you can input the actual track, then you'll find things that have the same feel, and you can dig down from there. And we saw like professionals saving 90% of their time searching for music and being the fastest one to reply to a brief. So if you're the first one to reply to an ad agency, the chance of you winning that pitch is a lot bigger. So we could bring immediate value, and we could save a lot of time, and we'll find you better music. So for the industry, it kind of sold itself. The only difficult thing was to find the perfect price point for them, I would say. Now I went on a long rant.
That was super, super interesting. I remember I haven't done a lot of sync, but I did do some management on a sync catalog once, and when we got briefs in, and it described the music we needed to get, I was like, I really, really need to know this catalog in order to answer that. Like that was super complex. So I guess, as you said, it solves people wasting time and energy. But do you know how big of the market is still working in this traditional method? Like how much market cap does your approach in general have? Like, is it still a very small part of the industry and you guys are growing really fast, or is most of the industry still in the traditional way working?
It depends on what you see as the industry. If we narrow it down to production music specific, then we cover the top of the market. So most of the big companies now has Aims, or like part of Aims or all of Aims inside their platform. But if you look at sync in general, so the big publishers and the music supervisors around the world, and I don't know, the big DSPs, then or OTEs, then basically we're just scratching the surface. Like the traditional commercial industry, like the publishers that you work with, or the kind of companies, they are still using older methods or are now adopting what we're doing. So as a company, this was a big challenge. We wanted to become the standard in production music. And then we wanted to build more products that they wanted. So these two things we've done. And now how can we move outside? And what is outside? So we're kind of moving into production companies or the demand side of things. So everyone who's producing can also search using Aims technology. And big broadcasters, etc., that are searching millions of tracks, they need it even more than smaller companies. But in a small publishing company, we're also alleviating a big risk that you mentioned now. You need to know the catalog. And they often have one, maybe two people that know the catalog really well. So they will go to the album that they know or the artist that they know, super biased, not saying they're going to give you bad things, but you're leaving all new productions or all productions that came before you out of the brief. And if this person disappears for some reason, you're leaving a huge gap in like who can find the music. And I've seen that in a lot of music companies. Like, we lost our key person for retirement or for whatever reason. Now we're starting from scratch.
Yeah, wow.
We can remove that scratch and like enable anyone who works in your company to find the music. Then the human decide what is the right suggestion.
That makes sense. So if I understand it correctly, you're a Bootstrap company, you have 26 employees, you already really present on the top level. So now your ambitions is making this an even more extensive company with even more clients. So you intend to grow. Like, how much do you intend to grow? How big do you guys want to get?
As big as possible. I think we are trying. We feel that we're just scratching the surface. We're super happy with where we are now and how we got here. But one of the reasons why I'm out in LA is that the world is big and every day you see new opportunities that we hadn't thought about. So when we go into a client meeting with happy clients, we can still realize that we could solve 10 more problems for you that you didn't think that our technology can be applied for. So now we're in the phase where we can discover and upsell and train our clients. At the same time, people are very happy with the product. So they introduce us to new people, new verticals. So, for example, now we're not only working with publishers, but out here you can have composers individual composers that is the size of a publishing company in Europe, because they do so much TV shows, they have whole teams around them, and the revenue is the size of a publishing company, and they need our technology as well. And we didn't consider them as a target. And things just evolve. And we are also looking at what can we do in A&R. We know that people are using it. This is just something we're scratching the surface of. We have a product called playlist plugging, where we tell you where do you belong in like the Spotify ecosystem? Which playlist should you be on by sound? So not placing you based on your territory or your genre, but the sound that people are listening for. And that can be used by managers, that can be used by artists themselves, it can be used by booking agents. You can maybe even find other artists that sound like you that you want to collaborate with, or that you want to use your digital marketing spend towards their audience, because their audience already like the feel that you're giving them. So we see so many things. So we're just trying to define what is the most important for us right now.
I'm curious because you speak, at least that's how I understand it, you speak of it as if it's one core technology that has different applications. Is that correct?
Well, I have to be careful what I say here, because I'm not in the research team, but we have one core, which is the similarity search, and we build layers on top of that. But we also have other models. So I mentioned now like the playlist plugging, where you can find which playlist you should be on. We also have tagging. So even though we think tagging is not as important now when you have other search methods, there are still platforms out there where you need to have tags to be discovered. Being it one of the streaming services where you do like a voice call, play me some romantic jazz, then you kind of need to have romantic and jazz there until you have like prompt search, which we now have released. But tagging is a separate product, separate algorithm, built by the same team, but not on top of the same model or algorithm.
That makes sense. Are you guys, positioning yourself in a time where you will acquire other companies, or do you want to build everything from yourself?
I don't know, to be honest. Right now, we're not looking to acquire because we have so many things that we are working on internally. I think if we had a lot bigger revenue, then that could be more interesting. We don't have an M&A position, so we don't really know. But it's very hard to decide to build or acquire or not to build at all because it's just something shiny. So the roadmap is long, and we are struggling now to like reprioritize what we think is the most important. Not struggling, but we do it all the time. Like, are we in the right path? We haven't acquired anything so far, and we have no immediate plans to do it.
You say the roadmap is long, and that, you know, intrigues me about, do you guys have an exit strategy, or what's the outcome of this?
We don't have an exit strategy at all. We just had a call among the founders now, and we're like, it's so great to have a project that you love working on. And we all feel that we're just scratching the surface. There are people interested in what we do, and a lot of our competitors were acquired, even though we think we have better technology than them. So this space, we have to always be, we're never going to say never, but it's not an exit strategy. We want to build, and we want to be like the best search for music anywhere. That's kind of our vision. And we want to be like open for everyone. So it's not like you have to be on a certain platform or you have to use certain technology. Our API should be available for those who want it on their sites.
Wow. Well, this is really interesting, and I try to read up on AIMS as much as I could, but I think, as you said, you guys are not very good at marketing because, you know, all of this great information was not something I could find. So I'm really positively surprised that this is so interesting. But what is the future for you guys? What are you focusing on right now? What's going to happen with you and also the whole industry you're working in?
That's what everyone is asking themselves. Like, AI is on everyone's minds, and they are scared of it. I want to state that we are not in the generative space, and that's a conscious choice from us. We think that the human should be in the center, and there is enough music out there so that it's not really need to generate music. We want people to be able to find the track that they're looking for, preferably created by humans. Like, there are hundreds of millions of tracks out there. I don't think we need to generate 1 billion more. So that's something that we want to state. The future, this sounds cliche, is kind of here for us now. We just released something we call prompt search, and that's the technology that you talked about being available on our website. It's using like natural language to search for any kind of music. And that means you can put in there, build me a playlist for my romantic dinner with my wife. We're having Italian food. And then it builds you a playlist like that. Or I need music for a desert scene like Breaking Bad. And then it understands what kind of music you're looking for. And when I say it's here, is that we have launched it as a product. It's being integrated by several of our existing clients and some new clients actually right now. And it works really well. And it's fun. Like, when I show this to people, all they want to do is put in things. So, like, can you put in this cyberpunk for a courtroom drama? Or like, people just try to break it. And it's not breakable at the moment. That's the fun part. We really like that. And our immediate future is to improve on this. So we're adding complexities to that. And for my team in the biz dev, we're looking at different use cases for it. So there are so many options in the music space. Like, anyone who has a music catalog or is using music or wants to listen to music, I think there's application of this. And then we just see how the adoption of it is. You can enjoy it and go and just play with it on our website. But if you own a music company, this is the way you could search your catalog in the future. For curation, A&R, and definitely for sync. I I think this is interesting.
Makes a whole lot of sense. And is your future in LA?
That is not known yet. Some part of me likes it. The sunshine behind me is very appealing, but I like it very much in Copenhagen. So not immediately.
No. Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and I think this is again, I would believe, one of my top practical use cases of AI in the music industry that I like. I think it's super interesting. I'm very excited about it. You know, I don't show my wife a lot of things because I try to separate work and, you know, home life and having small kids and stuff, because it doesn't become all about work. But when I tried your demo, I was sitting at home in the evening. I was like, I gotta show you, man. Like, this is crazy. Like, I can actually type in what I want, the vibe I want, and it comes with it. Because I'm pretty obsessed with AI tools, but again, most of it is BS. And it's rarely, I would say once a month, you know, industry agnostic around like everything, I find a tool where it's actually transformational, and I would consider this being one of them. So congrats with that. I hope you're gonna have a great time in LA. It looks really, really nice. I'm really, really jealous. Here in Norway right now, it's raining and storming, and I live in Rogaland, Jæren, so that's even worse than normally.
No, I would say
yeah.
Sorry. No, I really appreciate that, because the excitement that you show when you're trying it is the excitement I'm getting from all industry people. You want to try it, it's fun, and it gives you something you like. So it's kind of bringing a lot of great things together. And of course, we're selling this product, so it's not like I'm unbiased. But I've yet to see someone who doesn't want to play with it. So this can be gamified somehow. And I think it will just level the playing field for all artists out there if we have this mass adoption. Because we're not looking at which label you're on or when you release something. We just want to find the music you're looking for. And there's a lot of archival stuff that are just drowning, that you can't bring forward. And there's a lot of new music that's impossible to discover. And I would say, like the cold start problem for new artists, you're often struggling to find, what other bands do I sound like? Does the DSP agree that I sound like them, or I have the same style? So we want to kind of help them get started as well. I haven't built an artist product yet, but I really want to. So we're trying, like, how can we get the artist excited about this? Because if you tell your wife, she will tell someone, the word spreads. So that's the organic thing that we want. But I love it. And we were so surprised how well it worked when we were actually just about to launch a new product called tagging, or auto tagging, where you can tag your music online. And then our research team said, you guys need to see where we are with this. And we tested it and like, okay, let's reprioritize. The tagging goes after the prompt, and then we launched a prompt search faster. And we haven't looked back.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. It's been really interesting to hearing a founder's journey here in this podcast that's been bootstrapped, that's been, you know, sort of built stone by stone, but also really, really fast. And it really sounds like you guys create something amazing in the future. So thank you, Einar, for being on Sound Connections.
Thank you, Jakob.